Hello and welcome. I'm Annette Reeder from the biblicalnutritionist.com. And today we're going to talk about three warning signs. And I can guarantee you have never heard all three of these before. But these are three warning signs that are going to shock you about colon cancer. It's not always where you think it begins. And that's the only hint I'm going to give you to what we're going to share today, because this is just totally going to shock you. You're going to say, okay, I did not know that before. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share with you God's recipe for excellent health. It always includes the three ingredients. Number one, if I can help you be confident in your health, then that blesses my day. Number two, being confident with your in the kitchen and just realizing, you know what, I can put together a meal and it'll be healthy and satisfying to my family. And then I know I've done well. And number three is for you, helping you be confident in understanding how much God loves you. And the more you understand about how much he loves you, the more you recognize his love is expressed in how he created our body, and we are created to heal. Yet it helps to know what might be interfering with that healing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So these three warning signs of colon cancer, you cannot ignore this. You have to pay attention. And it's not the doctor you've been going to discover this. That's another hint to what we're going to talk about today. Well, today I'm interviewing a new friend, and I feel like we've been sisters for life because we are so much similar to each other and enjoy talking with each other. This is Dr. Debbie Osment, and she's been a follower of ours in the Biblical Nutritionist, and she reached out to me to start this friendship, and I'm so excited about it. And I'm going to let her share with you what she does, what brought her on this journey. But first of all, you need to check out her podcast, and that is called Vitality Made Simple. So write that down, go to that after the video. And then she talks about health starts in the gut, but the gut starts in the mouth. All right. So welcome, Dr. Osment, to this video. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you, Annette. I so appreciate you inviting me.
Well, okay, give people a little bit of an inside view of who you are and what got you started on this journey. And then we're going to go right into the three warning signs.
I'm a dentist. So I graduated from dental school in 1985. So I'm an old dentist and I've loved my job. I had a very relational practice and knew everybody well, Annette. So um, I started noticing that people were having longer and longer med lists. They would have more and more doctors visits that they had to go to. And I just thought, yikes, there's got to be some reasons for this, some solutions for this. So I went back once our children were driving themselves, went back to school and went through a functional medicine program with the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. I don't really like the name anti-aging because that's not the goal. We're going to age, but we want to do it intentionally. And so I went through a Mayo Clinic coaching program, went through actually got a master's degree in metabolic nutrition in order to be able to branch out and still use my dental license. Um, Through all that, I went through a preceptorship in heart attack and stroke prevention, learned about a saliva test from some cardiologists that really changed the trajectory of my practice. Found out that these oral bacteria have been researched. It's pretty new research in the past 15 years, but they've been researched to um, all kinds of areas where the DNA of these bacteria move away from the mouth. I mean, they're in the mouth, but it's really not about the teeth. So, although I'm a dentist, I'm sorry that was a long and winding road, but this is really not about the teeth. This is about the systemic health. I tell my patients, your teeth are the last to go. When you look in the mouth, it's really about your systemic health and chronic inflammatory disease.
Oh, that is so good. All right, so let's dive in. What are the top three warning signs for colon cancer? And wait a minute, how did you get to the subject of colon cancer? That's the opposite end of what you studied. So get us from point A to point B, and then let's go into the warning signs.
So, so through this education, I was actually in a medical school program. So they never had a dentist. It was the University of South Florida College of Medicine, and they started a master's program. And so we had to write all of these case histories. So I started, gathering information. And by this time, Annette, my patients were, I was getting a lot of patients referred to me from physicians. So people who had um, chronic inflammatory problems, but maybe kind of the doctor was at a crossroad of, well, what in the heck's wrong with this person? So we started finding out that when we got the mouth healthy, the oral microbiome healthy, lots of other problems just naturally subsided. I mean, it was increasing the physician's outcomes. And I'm just sort of wide-eyed thinking, okay, why is this happening? This just seems really too easy to get the oral microbiome healthy and see, decrease in, inflammations. The C-reactive protein would plummet. We started seeing people having more energy, getting better sleep. Their autoimmune numbers would decrease. Fertility. Oh, Annette, I just had another person last week tell me I'm pregnant after 10 years, and it was just oral microbiome. Pretty simple. So I started just asking questions, being a very curious person. Um, I started seeing that many of these oral bacteria can be found in the gut with testing. So that led me to poop. Started asking my patients, tell me about your bowel habits, and so many would say, "Oh my goodness, Debbie, thanks for asking. They're non-existent."
Mm-hmm.
It, it was just a universal answer, Annette. It's been a wonderful journey, and I did restorative dentistry for 34 years. In 2019, I limited my practice to just these chronic inflammatory issues and physician referrals. So I still see patients and really just digging deep into these oral bacteria. I've got a book going. I've got to figure it out. And I appreciate you highlighting this topic because it is so new, and it actually seems like the mouth is just the mouth, you know, and way out here somewhere not affecting the body, but that's totally opposite.
It is. It so much is. So, all right. So you've already made the connection from the mouth to the gut to the butt, as we said earlier in our private conversation. So, what is the number one symptom that can be very soon leading to the cancer of the colon?
I would say, of course, bowel habits have to be noticed. Constipation, diarrhea. Most of the people that I've seen that have suffered colorectal cancer have had constipation problems, and often they'll have constipation, 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 and then a couple of days of diarrhea, and then the cycle starts again. Um, but what I've learned, Annette, that's been so shocking to me is that generally they have some early gum disease. And I'm saying early gum disease, some bleeding gums that before this adventure I would have ignored, absolutely ignored, because bleeding gums, even a little bit of bleeding, is so common. It's kind of like we talked about earlier, the normal. We have to be careful of normal. And I joke about on the podcast, we don't want to be normal because, normal is dehydrated, irritated, constipated, frustrated, overscheduled, overstimulated, um, underrested, um, totally stressed out. Normal is just not a good thing in our world. And so we kind of have to rethink that. And so people have had their gums bleed for so long and been told by their dentist. And I made this absolute mistake early in my practice. Oh, your gums are bleeding a little bit. Where you going on vacation? Just just not understanding it was such a big deal until I went to a vascular inflammation class that was given by some cardiologists and learned about a saliva test. So I started testing saliva and then seeing specifically what oral pathogens were there and starting to see these patterns in it of how it totally went with how they felt.
So true. So, what you're saying is gum disease is an early warning sign that, if not treated, and if not corrected, can lead to colon cancer.
Yes, and that sounds like a big leap, doesn't it? But there's
Well,
a bacteria called
definitely a
Fusobacterium.
connection.
Yeah, Fusobacterium nucleatum. It's a highly researched oral pathogen. It's actually what's called a commensal. So it's a bacteria that at low levels is a good bacteria.
Hmm.
But when it overgrows, I jokingly call it the mother-in-law bacteria because at low levels it's really beneficial. But if it's, I'm a mother-in-law, you're a mother-in-law, if we go in and move things around and give a lot of unsolicited advice and like move in, then we're not good. Well, that's what happens with Fusobacterium nucleatum. It's an oral bacteria that at low levels, it's going to help everything, but at higher levels, it just causes chaos. It's a bridging species, so it can make other bacteria worse. I mean, things you've probably heard about. I know your listeners are so educated listening to you, but there's a bacteria in the mouth called Porphyromonas gingivalis. It's very implicated in Alzheimer's disease. It's found in about 40% of postmortem Alzheimer's brains, and the we talk a lot about that, but it needs fusobacterium to be the bridge to make it worse. So, but what we know now is that fuso actually translocates to the gut, and we can test for it there. So far, I've seen of every colorectal cancer patient I've seen, they've had higher than optimal levels of Fusobacterium nucleatum. In many of the research papers, it is considered starting to be considered causal. But what we know for sure is that it is helping cancer grow. Whether or not we can say causal, that's a big leap, a big statement. But we know that it makes cancer grow. And the great news is that when we identify it, we can deal with it and get rid of it.
All right, that's number one. So what's number two? It's number one is bleeding gums. And number two, I think you pretty much already alluded to it, but what's number two on your list?
Yeah, I'd say number two is, anything less than an easy bowel movement a day.
Right.
We are designed to eat and poop. And, and it's not that if you go every 3 days, that's your normal. Well, that might be your normal, but that is not optimal at all.
Yeah.
That is God's way of helping us maintain this healthy barrier in our gut that helps us eliminate toxins, helps us absorb nutrients, and it's essential to have a bowel movement, an easy bowel movement, at least once a day. So I would say another thing is just watch your bowel movements, pay attention, and in your um, journal, that's something I think probably people can keep track of. Um, Super important, and and
I-
not believe that it's okay, I guess.
Right. And many times physicians will say, well, that is your normal, which you've already clearly said, well, no. And you have a whole list of descriptions of normal, which I agree with. And it's not. We were totally created to take in and to put out, and not on random basis, but on a very regular pattern. So definitely, and just paying attention to that. So
And you think about, I know you're so relationship based, when people are eating food and eliminating optimally, they feel better. They sleep better. They're more ready for social interaction.
yeah, so much so. All right, number three, what would that be?
I would say number three is to test yourself. You can hopefully you have a dentist that will test your saliva and pay attention to this. There's it's becoming more and more uh, accessible to people, and dentistry is accepting it better. But there is a home test that people can use to test for not just Fusobacterium nucleatum, but to just to test all these aspects of the oral microbiome. So much happens in the oral microbiome that impacts vitality in every way. That's the bacteria need to be balanced in order for nitric oxide to be produced optimally. Many of the mouthwashes in it that just kill all the bacteria, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so the test I recommend to people is bristlehealth.com, BRISTLE health.com. And they have a really good self-administered, kind of a decentralized um, saliva test that you can order on your own and test yourself. And actually I like them. They have a discount code for my listeners, Vitality 10, to save 10%, capital letters, Vitality 10, numerical 10. So anyway, that is just great because then you can see they're not just going to look at fusobacterium, but they're also going to look at like Porphyromonas gingivalis. Now, to better answer your question, what happens with these oral bacteria is they move to other parts of the body, and they set up an inflammatory response. I know you talk a lot about chronic inflammation, and this first became evident with a patient that a physician sent me probably 14 years ago. And this woman had a C-reactive protein of 18.1,
Whoa.
which, yeah, for our listeners, nowadays, labs generally just say over 10. They don't even give you a number.
Mm.
But the physician said, Debbie, I think she has cancer. But I can't find it. See what you think. So we did a saliva test. Um, she had high Fusobacterium nucleatum and a few other, there's other bacteria too. It's not just that one in it, but I feel like Fuso is sort of the ringleader and and in so many ways the easiest to deal with. And so we did a deep cleaning, used a laser, but a pretty simple procedure. It's called, for listeners, it's called scaling and root planing. If you have bleeding gums, you might ask your dentist, say, I want to have scaling and root planing. I want a really thorough cleaning. And without antibiotics, without anything else, her C-reactive protein dropped to 2.9.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and that's still, optimal's one or below. But what was so fascinating in it is that her cholesterol got better, her blood sugar got better, everything improved. God has designed these bodies that when we do a few things, we're designed to heal. So things start falling into line.
Wow, that's an amazing drop. That is, yet if you hadn't caught that, I don't even want to think about what that future was. And it would have been very quickly because that CRP is very out of balance. I mean, I'm just like shocked by that number and the fact that you were able to identify it so easily, non-invasively, and to correct it and to change her life, her outcome. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is shocking, and everyone needs to understand this better.
When a lot of the newest research in the last couple of years, Annette, is on Fusobacterium and breast cancer. And it's also, I mean, that's the new research. What I also see with breast cancer often is somebody who has a failing root canal, and that root canal is a dead tooth, and um, so it attracts bad bacteria. You think about the plant in your garden that's kind of the sick plant. It's covered in bugs, and bugs are attracted to that as well. And so I saw in a thermogram recently a failing root canal that was, lit up with inflammation down this woman's lymph node to a breast tumor.
Oh,
And she had of course, we got her root canal taken removed, but she also had early to moderate gum disease. I guess if your listeners could understand that so many pictures you see of gum disease, it's this gnarly mouth,
yeah.
with oozing sores. But at that point, it's probably too late. I mean, I don't mean too late literally, but you know what I'm saying? Early matters. So I, I I know that you have very discerning listeners, and this is another area of discernment that can help expand health span, and that can literally save you tons of money, tons of misery, and help you have more energy for that purpose that God's given you.
All right, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything that you're just saying because I'm hearing it for the first time too, along with my listeners. So, giving them a to-do list. Number one is, okay, don't ignore your poop. You have to pay attention to that, and you've got to get high fiber. You got to drink lots of water. But beyond that, you talked about the saliva home test and you mentioned where to go to get that. And we'll put that link also in the show notes down below. And then you talked about the bleeding gums. You mentioned the C-reactive protein, making sure they're tested for that. And we recommend that they test for that as well. Is there any type of normal hygiene that they should be doing on a daily basis? Because you also talked about, the mouthwashes that just strip all the bacteria out of your mouth, and then you've lost your defense. So, what is some basic hygiene that everyone should do just for general purpose?
Annette, I like oil pulling. Oil pulling is very simple, very inexpensive. Sometimes you'll hear, oh, there's no research. In fact, I just did a podcast on it because people are asking about it so much. But no, there is research over it. There is a lot of research. And the thing is, it's painless. There's no downside to oil pulling. You simply get a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of, say, coconut oil or olive oil, put it in your mouth, swish it vigorously through your teeth. Some things you'll read will say 20 minutes, but Annette, if people do it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's really good. And it's not going to kill the good bacteria. It's going to help draw out the bad bacteria. And I also read things that, it just cures all kinds of things. And who knows? Who knows? But what we do know is that health starts in the gut starts in the mouth. When there's inflammation in the mouth, that is affecting everything from memory to fertility to cancer to type 2 diabetes to, you name it. It's affecting everything. So, anytime you can keep your mouth healthier, you're going to have a healthier body generally. Now, but I really advocate these little gum picks. The brand is GUM. They're plastic. I wish they weren't plastic. If someone could invent some bamboo that are soft, I'll help sell them for you. Because the thing is, this is a biofilm that forms under the gums, and you have to disrupt that biofilm daily. Think about this community of bacteria that live down there. They protect each other under the gums. So you get these little brush picks in there. They don't hurt. It feels great. When your teeth are clean, they'll kind of squeak. And once your gums are healthy, they don't bleed. Healthy gums don't bleed. I mean, like if I could put it on a billboard, healthy gums don't bleed at all. And then from the standpoint of your dental office, hopefully you have a great relationship with your dentist and do this bristle health test and take it in and say, hey, I want some help with this. I know this matters for my health span, for the life God's given me to live this long and productive life. And tell your dental hygienist, clean your teeth like you're taking boards. That's what I tell people to say. Clean your
Oh,
teeth like you're taking boards. And most dental hygienists are so happy to hear that. They love to see people who don't just want in and out.
yeah, I so agree with that. All right, so number one is oil pulling. Number two is the saliva test, which we'll link that down below. Number three is the brush pick.
Hmm.
Anything else besides getting normal blood work that includes a CRP and getting that done minimally once a year, but I actually say preferably 6 months, every 6 months, because things are happening so rapidly today in our society. Disease is in an exponential growth state just because of so many things that we can't control, but you can control when you get your blood work done. And so we've been trying to teach people that for years. Take ownership of it. Don't wait for your doctor, just order it yourself. And we always teach people how to do that. Is there anything else that they can start doing today to change the microbiome in their mouth?
Yes. Have a 3D cone beam done of your mouth. Well, that will help you know if you have any hidden areas of infection. Say if you have any root canals, you want someone who will really read that very carefully. That you can find some really early problems with that 3D cone beam. That's something I would say ought to be done every 3 years.
Is that with the dentist? Is that where
It's
that?
with the dentist. Yeah, it's with the
Okay.
dentist and you can kind of tell if an office is following current research if they actually have a 3D cone beam because it's not a super expensive machine anymore and it really can help find things early. I
Okay.
really appreciate too that you said to have a C-reactive protein.
Yep.
Another thing in that, I would say have a vitamin D test
Yes.
because the earliest time when I started thinking, I wonder if the oral microbiome or the gums in those days are how are they affected by vitamin D? I had a patient come in who came in like clockwork every 3 months. This was probably 25 years ago. And her gums always had this spongy look and a little bit of bleeding. And um, I'd always talk to her and she'd always do what I said. She was someone who in Oklahoma City is like a higher ranking person, worked a whole lot, didn't get outside. And I said, what? So she would always try to be better. But she comes in one day, Annette, and she looked great. Her gums looked healthy. I knew she had good hygiene. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing differently? And she said, nothing, Debbie. And I was like, yes, there's something you're doing differently. And she's like, no, I promise. And I said, when you think of it, please come back and tell me. So she leaves, Annette, and she goes to her car. We see her coming back in. I'm like, she thought of it. And she comes in and she says, well, I've been getting a vitamin D injection. Now, think 25 years ago.
Wow.
It's new. That was new. And I said, oh, really? So that was news to me. But that sort of started my wheels turning and thinking. So a really optimal vitamin D level, say 80 to 100, is we don't want to be normal there, do we?
No, we don't. No, 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 no. I love you. I love that you went right to the key numbers and I didn't have to like coax you up like I had to coax so many people up. Good.
Well, yeah, so many people are like, well, I'm fine. I'm 30. It's like, oh my gosh, they'll feel so much better if
Yes. All right. Well, so what we've covered here is three warning signs for colon cancer, but you've now come up with a list of five things they need to do right away and just to take control of their health. And so, oil pilling, saliva test, the brush pick, the 3D beam of the mouth, and then the last was getting your own lab work done. So, do we have we covered it? Did we cover it well?
I think that's a great place to start. You are so insightful, Annette. You really inspire people to take responsibility for this earthly tent, this what I call our relationship vehicle. And I really appreciate that. I would say don't leave it to your dentist. You
So
know,
true. So true. I forgot diet. So that would be six.
oh, absolutely. And that's always part of
Five.
it. That's in movement, oxygenation, that's always part of it. And airway, there's a lot of places we could go here, but I think if we start here, it really these are things people can do. The bristle test is inexpensive. So I'm doing an experiment on myself as we speak. I did a bristle test before and I'm oil pulling for 30 days and I'm going to retest. So I'm doing everything else I was doing, with my brush picks and my brushing my teeth, um, and floss, but I'm only changing oil pulling. So kind of my own research. And you can test yourself with a nice test like that. It's super. It's just a swish and spit. And so people can really see what's going on. Um when the oral microbiome is healthy, you're going to have fresher breath, and that's good for relationships.
Yes.
Uh, it really makes I'm getting surprised every day. Here I am at 65. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm pleasantly surprised every day that small changes make big results in metabolic health.
And it's never too late to start. And so sometimes I get invited to senior luncheons and things like that. And I have taught that the gut begins in the mouth. And I try to teach them, like, don't stop going to your dentist. Even though I'm not, um, I don't want the dentist to be the okay, check, I did that. No, I want you to take ownership, like you just said. But
Yes.
there's no age to not pay attention to your oral health. Because, and this is even true for children. And we're not just talking old people. The children have to be taught good oral health at an early age to avoid what many of us have gone through. So
Right. Right. And the nice thing about those little brush picks is they're easy to use. I mean, people say, "Do I still floss?" Sure, still floss, but these brush picks are really the bomb because you don't have to be super dexterous. Um, you can use a toothpick, but the goal is to break that oral biofilm, that colony of bacteria that live under the gums.
Okay, got it. All right, this has been incredibly insightful. I can't imagine the comments we're going to get down below and all of the thumbs up from this conversation. I feel like we've been sisters for life. We have such commonality and agree with a lot of what we teach. And so this has been a great experience. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It's been a total pleasure. I look forward to coming to some of your retreats and really getting face to face.
Yes, that would be so delightful. So I'm glad you brought that up. For those of you who are just joining the Biblical Nutritionist family, make sure you hit like and subscribe and the bell for this YouTube channel so that we can stay connected. Also, go to my website, thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and sign up for the email list. And what she just mentioned is our conference. We have one coming up in the fall of 2024 that is going to be released in the next week. And our email followers get notified first, and it is a limited audience. So we are limited on how many can attend. So you do not want to wait around to decide if you want to go. But if you want to spend 2 to 3 days just deep diving into your health and understanding everything that God created in your body and how you were created to heal and to be well as your soul prospers, we're going to be teaching that in so many fun ways. We always have a blast. And you do have to come dressed up as a food for one night. Just saying, just giving you a heads up. So you got to have fun. For the rest of you, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on this video channel and being a part of the Biblical Nutritionist family. Remember, God loves you. He loves you with an amazing love. It's an everlasting love. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And therefore, his love is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's always waiting to embrace you in that relationship. He's waiting for you to reach out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Biblical Nutritionist.